Hey friends, before the show begins, I did just want to mention that we do talk about Ilana's Instagram page through this episode, and her name has changed since recording, so she can now be found at Ilana Fofana on Instagram. So if you're interested in seeing more from her trip, make sure to go and check her out on Instagram and follow her story reel.
Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and of course, I am not alone in this podcasting endeavor. I'm joined today by our friend, Christy.
Hi, Lake.
Hi, Christy. How are we doing today?
Well, a little tired, so we're going to see what comes out of me today. It's going to be a mystery for us all.
That can be the fun of squeezing in recordings when you have day jobs and other busy live things to go about. But we do have a very exciting episode. We have a first-time cruiser episode, which I think is almost everyone's favorite type of episode to record. You just get a lot more fun and excitement out of it. And we tend to not gloss over quite as many things. I think when we have return cruisers, we're like, oh yeah, and we did this. It was fine. When we have first-time cruisers, everyone wants to talk a lot more about the details of what we did, which can be good too if we have first-time cruisers listening and they want to hear more about, these details, the booking, the planning. So Without further ado, we'd like to welcome Ilana onto the show. Ilana, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here.
This was you and your family's first cruise. Why don't you tell us?
On Disney. Their first cruise, right? And the first Disney cruise. Because they had Ilana had one previous random cruise in the back.
I have been on 3 cruises, but it has been more than 20 years since I've been on a cruise. So it was my family's first cruise and for all intents and purposes, we'll just call it my first cruise too.
Well, before we get aboard the ship, I think we should hit a little bit on your Disney background. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that's an important factor here.
Well, I spend probably 5 days a week at Walt Disney World, just gallivanting around and showing people my adventures. I'm on Instagram and TikTok, just having fun at all 4 parks. Well, I guess Typhoon Lagoon too. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
Just putting shade on Blizzard Beach there.
Why not? It's a hot.
I love Blizzard Beach. It's a favorite.
I'm not sure I have ever once been to a Disney water park.
I actually do like Blizzard Beach. It's just currently closed, so I forget about it.
Yes, they are really bad currently about having them both open. It's almost always one or the other at this point, but we like Blizzard Beach. We did it after Princess because they give you half off now when you run the races.
I was going to say, maybe I'll go. Maybe I'll go one year after Run Disney event. And Ilana has just started doing Run Disney events.
That's exciting.
This will be my second season at doing Run Disney.
We will talk a little bit more about that after we get through the bulk of this. So we spend quite a bit of time in Walt Disney World. What made us want to make the leap onto Disney Cruise Line?
I think it was just a matter of, I feel like I know what the parks have to offer. Yes, there are new and exciting things all the time, but it's all a variation of the same kind of offerings for the most part, right? So as a family, my kids sometimes will actually tell me, I don't want to go to the parks today. It's too much. They're 12 and 8 years old, and they wanted something new. We wanted something new that we could all get excited about for the first time. So that's why we went after a Disney cruise.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about the sailing you decided to pick and kind of what your thought process was with picking this sailing and what led you to pick this itinerary?
So I was actually chatting with a friend who was on the cruise at the same time. And she is an avid cruiser and said, hey, this is a great itinerary. It's the silver anniversary. It's a double dip Castaway Key cruise. We love it there. I think that you'll love it there. Your family will love it. It's 5 nights. It's the perfect length, you know, for a first time cruise. Why don't you look into this? I started chatting with other people and they told me that the Fantasy is a great ship to go on for the first cruise. And after now having been on it, I agree with them.
So your friend that you cruised with, I think is Tina, right? Just from the Instagram followings of you both being there at the same time. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
So her account is A Magical Life for Me. I wondered if, because I had noticed you both had indicated you're on the ship, if it was a planned effort that you would be on the ship at the same time. So she booked first and then you booked later.
So we did book at the same time, but we booked because we were first time cruisers, and let's be honest, cruising is very expensive. There were a lot of things that we wanted to do that they didn't want to do. And we just sort of said, we're going to do our own thing, but we'll be on the same ship.
No, it's perfect.
And it was great having somebody who could help me along the way decide what we wanted to do.
Did you feel like you were able to pre-book a lot of the things that you wanted to do that could be pre-booked?
So I will say that I had a travel agent. I got everything I wanted to get. Yes.
Awesome. Love that. Well, why don't we turn to getting to the port? So as a Florida local, it sounds like you drove down to Port Canaveral. Did you park at the port?
We did. And actually, we did not tell our children that we were going on this cruise.
Oh, we love that.
We were driving. We told them we were going on a beach vacation. We said we were going to Cocoa Beach because my son, who's 12, can read. My daughter can read too, but she just, you know, she would probably just say, okay, we're going wherever you're telling us to go. He noticed that there were ships, but still thought we were going to the beach because you can see like the water, right? So I turn around and I actually shared this on Instagram. It's on my highlights. I turned around and I said, actually, we're going on a cruise. You see that ship right there? That's the one we're going on. And neither of them believed us. It was just such a funny moment because they're like, nah, you're kidding. We're not going on a cruise. And then when they realized that we weren't kidding, they were actually afraid. My kids are actually pretty good with, you know, change and there's no issues with transitions or anything like that. I think that maybe the excitement leading up to it would have been more memorable had I just told them. They knew that we were looking into cruising, but they didn't know that we had actually booked it.
No, that all makes sense. And it is always interesting for people. How are they going to tell the kids? How do they broach it? In my house, we do kind of cruise like all the time. So there's not a surprise anymore. It's not maybe too much cruising. It's just like, this is what we're doing this weekend. Okay. Yeah, as a new cruiser, that's really interesting. What do you think they were scared of?
I think that the concept of cruising was exciting to them, but when they actually saw the ship and how large it was, they were starting to question whether it would float.
Oh, no.
It is crazy the first time you see, especially now with how big ships are, just like fathoming all these people and all of these activities and things that are awaiting for you on board.
We've never traveled out of the country. So that was also, I think, something that was a factor for my son.
That makes sense. Everybody, you have to go. We'll point to Ilana's Instagram handle at the end, but it's Disney Mom 2.0 so that you can start going there while you listen to this podcast. You have to watch in the highlights because I caught it in real time. And these kids, it was like several videos later that they were finally like, wait, okay, yeah, we're on a cruise. We could be happy. Like they were into it, but it was a little comical to watch.
I could always count on my son for the comedy relief.
So since y'all drove, did you pay to park at the port then?
Yes, we did.
Which, you know what, is the easiest option, isn't it? Like, I don't even think you can save that much money by parking offsite. And it's not that much to park there. So
well, I think it was just over $100 with the amount of money that was spent on this cruise. That was like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, for sure. What kind of cabin did you guys decide on for your family?
We got this deluxe family studio, Ocean View. I don't know if I said that correctly. I have no idea.
Okay. Was it an ocean view or a balcony cabin?
No, it was Ocean View.
Ocean view. Okay. And was it one that would sleep 5 or 4?
It was 4.
Okay. You had an ocean view.
We get to the port, we get parked. Parking there is a super easy situation right across the bridge, and we're there to do check-in and embarkation. How was that process for you?
It was so smooth and easy. And our call time, I think, was, I don't know if it's called call time, but we were supposed to show up at 1 o'clock, and we got there early. And initially it looked like there was a line, and I thought it was going to take forever. And it was 5 minutes. And we walked in and through security. It was a breeze. It was an absolute breeze. Our group had already been called to board the ship at like 12:45. So it was such a smooth process.
That's great. Disney will get ahead of themselves depending on how boarding goes that day. And so it is wonderful that sometimes your boarding group can be called before even what in theory is your port arrival time. I would say for a new cruiser, if your port arrival time is 1, I wouldn't show up at 10:45. But if it's after 12:30, 12:45, you really might get away with it, just like Ilana did, because it really depends. They're going to base it on whether the port is crowded or busy or not. And if the people are on board, then they'll just get the next set on.
We go ahead, we do all the fun check-in information, and we're making our way up the gangway. How was your experience getting on your first Disney ship?
It was incredible, but as a content creator, I got a little frustrated because all I wanted was that classic Mickey, like the hidden Mickey shot of my family getting onto the ship. Since it was our first time on a cruise, I thought that would be really special to have that photo before we stepped onto the cruise itself. And there are just people everywhere. So I just sort of made a mental note that unless you get an early time, you're probably not getting that photograph. And it's fine. I accepted it. Obviously, I moved on. We had a great time. It was a little hiccup, but I just had my mind set on getting that photo. And from that moment on, I said to myself, okay, no more expectations. Let's just have fun. This is not about creating the perfect content. And if anybody is listening who follows me, I think you all know that about me already. I'm not trying to get the perfect photo. I'm trying to embrace the moment for the most part. I should have heeded my own advice on my first Disney cruise.
Oh, I totally get that though. But you know what? I don't think you can get that mouse ear photo unless you're like really late, because what'll happen is it just bounces the people through that funnel to like turn around and have nobody in it and stop everybody else and smile. I don't think that's as common as we think. You can get it empty, but to like get your family in it, yeah, I think you have to get there way later.
I had seen it several times from other creators, and I just had it in my head that I wanted it as well. You don't really have time to like think about that anymore, and you're staring at this massive ship. And I will say that if you have a fear of heights, don't look down, because I definitely did that, and I was like, oh, okay, that's too high. It was really fun watching my kids' reactions to setting foot on the ship for the first time. And then having our name called as we walked in, that was really special. Yeah, my 12-year-old really liked that.
Yeah, Disney definitely does a lot of grandeur when you embark on their ships. And it's definitely something that we missed not sailing Disney on our last cruise. But it really does, it takes embarking on a ship up to an 11.
He felt like a little celebrity. I said, you know what? You have your moment.
So we get on board. How did we kind of spend our first morning or first day on the ship?
The first thing that we did, I went to go speak to guest relations because there was something I wanted to change, a reservation. And at the time, they couldn't do anything about it. It ended up getting fixed I'll talk about that later, but it did end up getting fixed. We went to go eat. That was the first thing we did. And I know that we had the choice between going to Cabanas, the quick service, or going to Animator's Palette for a sit down. And I was told ahead of time, because I do have food allergies, that it would be wise to go to the sit down so that I could speak to somebody about my concerns and get that taken care of. And so that's what we did. We went to go eat at Animator's Palette.
And then what food allergies do you have that you're working with on the cruise?
I am gluten-free and dairy-free. And I also don't eat pork or shellfish.
Does anybody else in your family have any food restrictions, or?
All of us don't eat pork or shellfish.
Okay.
Well, how was your first meal on board then?
It was great. I spoke to, I forget.
Head waiter.
Yes, the head waiter. It was not our assigned head waiter, because it's not the same person when you're going on the first day. But they gave me some options, and it was very, sitting here right now, don't recall exactly what I got, but I was very happy with what they gave me.
Awesome. And what did we do after lunch?
After lunch, we went to the room. We went to go see the room.
Around what time was that?
That was probably around 2:00. So we went to the room at 2:00. Actually, I was very surprised because we had 2 out of 4 pieces of luggage there already.
That's amazing.
We knew that we would have access to the room at 2:00, but I was not expecting to see the luggage. They had prepped us ahead of time that the first piece of luggage would start to arrive at around 4 p.m.
Okay, yes. The luggage can arrive up until even dinner, they say. And so they do recommend that if there are things you need, to pack them in your carry-on. Always pack your medicine in your carry-on. If you were going to take things like prescriptions or any other daily medicine that you might need, things, your glasses, you're going to leave all that stuff with you. 2:00 arriving and having your luggage already there is amazing. That doesn't typically happen. So what did you think of the room? What was your first impression?
So the room itself, I loved. I was a little confused when I walked in where the beds were going to be.
Yeah.
Because obviously my husband and our bed is right there when you walk in, but then you just see a couch and sort of a cabinet. And because I had been on another cruise before, I thought that it was going to be bunk beds. I don't know why.
No, that's normal. It usually is bunk beds. And that was right. You didn't have a bunk bed, right? You had the fold down bed. So you did have the family size, but it slept 4 in your case. Typically it would have a bunk bed. For whatever reason, your cabin didn't. So you had a fold down bed that went into the room, and then the couch that they folded the top down of.
That's right. So I was a little confused when I walked in, but the ocean view was the best decision that we made, because when you walk in and you just see the water, I mean, there was actually a ship next to us at the time as well, which was not as beautiful of a view. However, I knew what was to come, and I knew it was the right decision. And I did love that it became sort of a reading nook for us in the room. So that was, originally we had booked an inside stateroom, and we decided to upgrade to have that ocean view. And I think that was probably the best decision that we made. The way watching the kids explore the room was probably the best part of entering at 2 p.m., just not really knowing what to expect, because they didn't even know we were going on a cruise, right? So this room doesn't look anything like a hotel room, really. The first question they asked when they walked in the room was, "Where's the bathroom?" So they found it very cool that you had to open a door to get to the bathroom. And of course, my mom brain was like, "Oh, well, you have to step up to get into the bathroom, and which kid is going to fall first? I don't know." We were all very happy with the room. And I knew that it was going to be perfect for us, the size of it.
So then I think I saw that you went to the sailaway party.
We did go to the sailaway party. I'm trying to remember if we went to the Oceaneers Club first. I was told to register the kids first at the Oceaneers Club. I did that because I wasn't sure where my son, who's 12, was going to end up, because he was able to go to the Tween Club, Edge, and the Oceaneers Club, but I figured I would just register him for it and we would figure it out as the cruise went along. So we did that because we wanted to take full advantage of the free babysitting on board. I think he was a little, not disturbed, but bothered, I would say, by the magic band that was on his wrist the entire time. I think that's probably something worth discussing with kids ahead of time, because they lock it to you.
They do. So, little pro tip for families: if you have a son or a child like mine and Ilana's, apparently, when you put the band on, pay attention to how it goes. And you can definitely lock it on and still let them slide it off their wrist. So at the end of every night, my son slides his magic band. Don't tell Disney, you guys, but he slides it. We hang it on a hook on the back of the door. And every time he walks out of the cabin, he puts his magic band back on. He doesn't have any diagnosis, but things like a band stuck on his wrist, that drives him crazy. And so we just learned it's easier this way. We let him just slide it off at night. He knows that he has to have it on when he leaves the cabin for safety reasons. That's how we get past that in our house.
We also made sure to notate that he could check himself out of the Oceaneers Club because he's 12. We wanted him to be able to experience the Tween Club, be able to walk back and forth between them. Because at the Tween Club, you do have to be registered, but they don't keep track of your kids. They can enter and leave freely. And to be honest, this was one of the best things about this cruise for us, was the amount of independence that we could give our children on the ship. It felt safe. So he still talks about it, and I'll talk a little bit later if you want about some instances where we actually let them go together on their own on the ship.
We could talk about that now.
There were a couple of times where my husband and I, we got the rainforest pass at the spa. And that's actually what we did right after we signed up for Oceaneers Club. We said, okay, on to the spa now, because we wanted the rainforest pass. We just wanted to be able to use it every day. What's the point if you're not going to use it, right? So
how much was it?
It was $119 per person, I believe. I have it in my highlights, but I believe that's the right price. We both got it. We just wanted to enjoy it together. We didn't want to trade off, who's going when and one of us watching the kids and whatnot. So we said to the kids, listen, we're going for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe longer. I understand that you don't want to go to the Oceaneers Club, which is a whole other discussion. My son didn't want to go at all at 12 years old. It just wasn't for him. And my daughter had a hard time going to the club knowing that my son wasn't going to be there. Mm-hmm. It's not that she disliked it. It's just that she's used to being with him. So we said, okay, there was this detective midship game that they could play, and they really just wanted to play it all the time. So I said, he's 12. I was babysitting at 12 years old. You two can go off on your own. And when you're done with this round of the game, go back to the room and we'll be back when we're done. And what was nice was they actually both have Apple Watches, and they were able to connect to the ship's Wi-Fi so we could text with them on board the ship. So there was never a question of, oh, when are you coming back? They were constantly texting us, when are you coming back? And we would be able to tell them right away, watch your TV show for another 20 minutes. We'll be there soon.
It's always good to know what other kids' opinions are about the kids' clubs. And I know I was just talking to a client today who was like, we need more information about this and that, because these kids' clubs, because they want to know what to expect for themselves. So I think it's really useful. One thing I'll say is if you have a chance to get on the Wish, I agree that this was a great cruise, and Tina's comments that the fantasy is fabulous. It's my favorite. But if you have a chance to get on the Wish, your son might like the Oceaneers Club on the Wish because there's some really cool things where you can design a roller coaster. You can make your superhero, what is it? Like costume thing.
Yeah, you can like design a Marvel costume.
And like they do a whole thing with it. And Steve, our creator's son, when we all went last year, he was 12 and he went with my son who was 8 or something at the time and 9. And they went to the Oceaneers Club together and had a blast. Like it was a 4-night cruise that he went one night, I think, to that club, but he like loved doing all the different things. So because it's got so many different, I think there's more to do for an older kid on the Wish. That just might be something to consider if you decide, if you guys have a chance before he turns 13, officially ages out. But
I think we're already booking another one.
yes. Are you going on the Wish?
We haven't actually booked it yet.
Okay.
So I don't know if it'll be the Wish. There's another boat in contention. I will announce it, I guess, on my account when we decide.
Well, very good. The Wish, though, obviously has the weekend cruises out of here, which makes it convenient. They would just bring us some Florida resident rates that would make it even that much better. But did your son go to the Edge at all?
He went constantly to the Edge. He loved it.
So then when your son went to the Edge, did your daughter go to the Oceaneers Club?
She did once, and she hated every second of it and texted us. It was during our Remy brunch, and it was every 5 minutes. When are you coming back? When are you coming to get me? So there is a downside, I suppose, for them having that Apple Watch.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Remy brunch for sure, especially with food allergies. But so only one time. My son can't get enough of it. So now he's 10, and he really got into it when the pandemic restart occurred, and it was like maybe less kids, but he was 7, and now we can't get him out. Like he literally is in there from awake hours practically at this point. So it's such a bummer when other kids, and there are other parents like this, and there's other parents whose kids are just like, this wasn't for them. So what did you do with her? Because you had Paulo as well, right?
Yes.
So the 2 sit-down adult-only dining options.
I actually think I misspoke. She did go during Paulo as well. So when we had the 2 reservations, it was non-negotiable. She was going, and we told her that. All the other times that my son went to Edge, she just stuck with us because he was not into the character meets, and she was. So he would just walk off and go to Edge, and we would wait in lines. And
what kind of stuff did he do in the Edge?
Oh, he was gaming most of the time.
Okay. All right. Did he do?
At one point, they did some kind of flash mob dance thing for the Pirates Night. So he was learning a dance for part of it, I think.
Did he do it? Did he do the dance?
Oh, yes, he did it.
That's so cool.
Yes.
Okay, so a lot of video games. Did he do any of the other like games or activities besides the flash mob that they would have had?
He did something. They had some sort of hero villains game that they were keeping track of points. So he did participate in that. He's a very funny kid. He's just finding his independence now. So there was a lot about what was going on there that he didn't want to talk about it with me. And I just kind of gave him that, privacy. Okay, as long as you're having fun, it's fine by me.
I think it's the age too, right?
I think he was getting ice cream is what I think.
Well, that's a pretty normal activity as well. That's hilarious. Okay.
I personally enjoyed touring the Oceaneers Club. So when they had the open house, like I tried to go, and I tried to make my daughter feel more comfortable just by being there with her. But then I also really enjoyed meeting Doctor Strange and Thor in the kids club.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Which was so funny to me that they were meeting in there, but I get it.
They have their backdrop.
Correct.
Disney likes to have a proper themed photo area.
Yes. So that was fun.
Let's stick with activities as a whole on the cruise just a little bit longer, since we know that you guys really like to do the character pictures, at least your daughter and you did. What other activities did you guys do as a family on your cruise?
We did one of the trivia. It was a Pixar trivia in the D Lounge, I think it's called. So we did that as a family. And then we did the detective midship. We did one round together. And then surprisingly, the bulk of it, it's not that surprising actually. The bulk of the time that we spent together as a family was meals. Mm-hmm. And we went to all the nighttime entertainment.
All right, so let's talk about dining. Of course, on Disney Cruise Line, we have rotational dining. So you get an amazing set of servers that are going to follow you around to all of these different restaurants. And then we already also hinted on some specialty dining, which we'll get to here in a moment. But why don't you tell us a little bit about how dining was for you and your family, especially with some of your food restrictions we have, and just give us like some highlights of, your favorite restaurant, maybe some of your favorite dishes that you had.
The very first meal that we had with the assigned team, the head waiter came over and introduced himself. Really nice man, Tony. And he basically let me know that I would be pre-ordering my meals for the next day at dinner. So they would give me the menus and I would let them know which food items I was interested in having the next day. Obviously the first meal, I didn't have that opportunity, but they brought me.
Where was your first meal?
The first, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Animator's Palette because we went twice in one day. Yeah. So our first meal was at Animator's Palette.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. And I have highlights, but I don't remember specific of what I ate at each meal.
No, that's totally fine. It's actually, I always say for people that are gluten-free and you don't want to eat a duck, that Triton's Royal Court, Royal Palace, whatever the French restaurant. So Royal Court is my least favorite as gluten-free because they'll find you other things, but the labeled item that's gluten-free is duck and the appetizer is duck. And so it's like you can have an entree of duck and an appetizer of duck. And that's a lot of duck. That's like duck meals too much, frankly. And, if you can't pre-order, you get duck.
So I don't enjoy duck.
No, same.
And I actually didn't have it once on the entire trip. The first dinner I opted for a salad with chicken a couple of times just because I got to the point where it was just so much food that I was eating that I was stuffed.
Yeah.
Plus I wanted to save room for the dessert. I couldn't believe they actually had dessert for me.
That's always so fun.
Not just sorbet. I had real dessert.
Right. And I was going to say creme brulee, but creme brulee is not dairy free, I assume. So
no, we couldn't have the creme brulee. There was a cake that I had that was really quite good.
Walnut cake? Could you have walnut cake from Animator's Palette?
That's what it was. The walnut.
That was my favorite.
And it was served with a little bit of custard or something on the side. Mm-hmm. It was, if I remembered it, it was that good. It was that good.
I have that several times on a cruise that has Animator's Palette because it's so good. So basically non-Wish cruises. Okay. And then how did your family do with dining? Like, how did they think of the entertainment at dining and did they enjoy their meals?
They did. Our meal at Enchanted Garden, I think, was the best meal that we had the entire cruise. The steak, I believe we each had steak that night, and it was phenomenal. We were all very, very happy. By way of contrast, when we had a steak at Animator's Palette, it was not that good. I'm just going to be honest and say it. Like, it was just, the last night we had the Crush show at Animator's Palette, and we were all kind of very confused.
You know what's funny about the Crush show? There's team love it or hate it, and I don't know if there's any team in the middle.
I think we're not fans.
I get it. And we have Crush at Walt Disney World, and we probably have all gone one time and never gone back. And
I don't really care. I will defend the Dream and Fantasy animators palettes for its theming only because I think there's a lot of details in there. And if you've never really noticed, so of course you haven't sailed on the Magic and the Wonder, but their animator palettes are themed to paint and ink and paint. So they're very white, and then the restaurant colorizes throughout your dinner. And then the animator's palette on the Dream and the Fantasy are actually themed to character design. So when you look on the walls and stuff, there's lots of concepts and sculptures of different characters, and that's why the show element is the crush interaction. And I think that's really cool, but I do think it's interesting. Crush show though, yeah, we have it at Walt Disney World. Why aren't we doing something with like a bigger variety of characters at this point?
I also just was very confused why I needed to see my waitstaff dancing.
That's a thing on cruises, all cruises. It's a thing, literally. Just about every cruise line. They're dancing now.
My dessert. Just bring me my dessert.
No. So did you get, this is, you guys are going to make fun of me, listeners, because I never can remember, but did you get the animation show too?
I don't know what that is.
Oh,
did you do the drawing?
So I think it was offered, but we opted not to do it. And we didn't do it because we do it at Animal Kingdom. And I didn't know that it was anything different.
So different.
Like as part of your dinner.
Yeah, it's part of your dinner.
No, it wasn't part of our dinner. No,
Okay.
Yeah, the drawing in like the D Lounge is something different, but there is a drawing at your table before you start your dinner at Animator Palette. But maybe it's only on cruises like 7 nights or more.
No, because our 5 night on the Magic did it.
We did not have that.
All right. We're going to get to the bottom of who, listeners, comment on the show notes. When is the animation show shown?
Animation Magic is what it's called. But also going back, I agree. As for the rotational dining on the Dream and Fantasy, Enchanted Gardens food rocks. Every time it's always been like super stellar for us. Just wanted to throw that out there. I feel like theming wise, it's the most like themed restaurant. It's kind of just dark and you have some LED flowers that move a little bit.
I disagree on that. I thought it was the most beautiful, actually.
Aww.
It is pretty, but they took a lot out of it because they took like the teacups and everything out of it. It used to have more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have what to compare it to. So for me,
that's perfect.
It was
good then.
And my daughter really loved it too.
Sounds like for the most part, rotational dining was a win for us. But we also have 2 specialty dining experiences to talk about. And why don't we go ahead and start with Palo, because I'm really more excited to hear about Remy, to be honest, just because we don't talk about Remy super often. So we did Palo dinner. How was that?
It was excellent. We actually opted out of Pirate Night dinner.
Correct answer.
So I looked at the Pirate Night menu ahead of time, and actually this was the thing that I was trying to change in the beginning when I went to guest relations when we got on the ship. Originally, we had Palo dinner scheduled for the Crush show, and everybody kept telling us you don't want to miss the Crush show. And I said, okay.
Blake and I are both like, well.
Yeah, everybody said it's super special. You don't want to miss it. Fine. Okay. But honestly, the Pirate Night dinner just wasn't speaking to me. And because we don't eat shellfish, it was even more so like, I don't need this, right?
And we can't eat pot stickers being gluten-free. And it's just like, more things we can't have. And I'm with you. I don't know when the last time I had a Pirate Night dinner was. I
was a little bit nervous about missing it. Not nervous, but just sort of that feeling of FOMO, your first cruise and you just, okay, I'm willingly giving something up here. And I thought my kids might want to partake in Pirate Night dinner, but we actually got them room service. So they were super happy with that. And that was a nice little bonus. We didn't take advantage of that enough. I think probably when we cruise again, we'll order more room service. Palo was great. We actually, funny enough, with these specialty dinings, and I find this also at Walt Disney World when you go to a certain caliber of restaurant, who your server is really can make or break your meal.
Mhm.
And we had a very experienced server who had been with the company for 13 years. He was Romanian. My dad's Romanian. It was like a whole thing. They were texting each other by the end of the meal. It was excellent. It was just a great meal.
What did you have?
Oh gosh.
Did you do the prefix dinner or did you do
No.
a la carte? Okay.
No, so we decided not to do the prefix because there was just too much there that we couldn't eat. I remember my husband got the gnocchi and he was very, very happy with that. There was, I believe I got a steak and I loved it. It was very good.
You know what you had for dessert?
Yeah, the chocolate
Souffle.
souffle. Yes.
So
And
then
that
they put dairy-free ice cream in it for you?
So they did. Yes.
That's great.
It was so good. And I marveled at the fact that, like, you know, just looking at our desserts, my husband and I, they looked the same.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun.
Yeah, I love the chocolate souffle. I wasn't sure if it could be made dairy-free. So that makes me really happy that you were able to get it.
Yes. And it was delicious. And we also opted for a bottle of wine. It was just a wonderful meal. I couldn't even finish the whole souffle. I was so full.
Did you do either of these specialty meals with your friends?
No, we decided to do them on our own because the timing of when we wanted to do them was different.
Okay. Were you first dining or second dining time for like your rotational dining? Did you have first dining or second dining?
First dining. And that was really important to me for the kids.
Team first dining.
Yes.
I made this whole group last year when Lake was with us, when we all cruised together, all come to early dining with me because I'm like, there's no way you're getting me to dinner starting at 8:30. Like, this is not going to happen. Not even for my child who also can't eat dinner at 8:30, but for me, my grown body can't eat dinner at 8:30. Okay. So you had first dining and then Paulo, your dining times worked out. So what about Remy? Tell us about Remy brunch. And I really want to know how it worked being gluten-free and dairy-free and shellfish-free and pork-free.
I feel like I should look back at my highlights for exactly what I ordered because I don't recall like offhand what I got. I know that I left full and happy, but so the courses were modified for us ahead of time. So they knew what my allergies were and they just sort of made a menu for me. I started with ratatouille, which was really pretty and very delicious. I did not leave even a drop on my plate.
Wow.
They had a bread service just for me with special dairy-free butter. It looked just like my husband's, but it was all like for me. Asparagus with caviar, short rib and wild mushroom ravioli was for my husband. Risotto with beets for me, which was delicious. Now that
do you usually eat beets?
I love beets. Yes.
Okay.
So it was very good. We both had toothfish and then Wagyu and potato gnocchi. And they just modified the way that they prepared the gnocchi for me. And that was the meal. And then they had a dessert and coffee and tea for us. So he had like a full tea service. That was pretty incredible to see, actually. For the dessert, it was apple compote and vanilla custard. And then I got an espresso. And it was $75 per person. I think it was absolutely worth it. Worth every penny. So they had, lobster of some sort on the menu. And we actually had to tell them that we don't eat that. So that's why they modified it for us.
I wonder if we could do it seafood free, like no gluten, no seafood.
I think most people do eat it though. That's probably very particular to us.
But I don't eat any seafood even. Like it looks tasty. I just cannot. But I really want to go to Remy brunch. Like, have you done brunch?
We have not done any of the Remy's, and that's one of the things that we really want to do on our fantasy sailing next year.
Do you want to do dinner or do you want to do daytime Remy?
Either, both.
Okay. We're going to discuss
something.
I really liked the way we did it. The Remy brunch I thought was so reasonable for what we got. And the Paulo dinner was just delicious. I kind of want to look up now and see what I got. I don't remember, but.
So I do have one more question about Remy, just because this is more of a fine dining experience. Are you pretty accustomed to like fancy dining, or was this kind of a special occasion type of thing? And did you feel like at all intimidated by booking and going to Remy?
I did not personally. I don't think my husband did either. We're coming off of, on our anniversary at the end of May, we went to Victoria and Albert. So this was a step back from that, I'd say. No, I was not intimidated by it. In fact, I thought actually Paulo was more formal than Remy.
Interesting.
All right, so let's hit the shows next. Tell us about what shows you saw and kind of some overall thoughts of the shows on board.
So we saw Aladdin, Frozen, and Believe. And of the three shows, I think we all sort of agreed that Aladdin was the best show. We just thought that the special effects were really cool. The actor that portrayed the genie was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. It was just a fun show that I feel like Aladdin is one of those shows that if you have a son or a daughter, they're going to be interested in that show. Frozen, I think, even though my son loved it, I think my daughter was more invested in that show in particular. But I will say that we actually ran into the cruise director as we were exiting Frozen, and I made sure to tell her that the actress that portrayed Anna in Frozen was so phenomenal that my daughter became an Anna fan as opposed to Elsa for the rest of the cruise. It was great. Believe is a one and done for us.
Yeah, some of those older Disney original or Disney Cruise Line originals, I don't think hold up anymore, especially compared to the quality of some of the newer shows. Moving on, we do have two different ports to talk about. One of them, of course, being our double dip to Castaway. But why don't we go ahead and start with Nassau? Did you get off the ship in Nassau? If so, did we book any excursions or did we explore on our own? What did we do in Nassau?
I absolutely did not get off the ship in Nassau. I wanted no part of Nassau. I wanted an empty ship or an emptier ship, and we took advantage of that.
Sounds like a Rainforest Pass day.
Rainforest Pass, pool, which I will say the one thing that nobody ever warned me about is when you're on a cruise in July, bring shoes to the pool because the deck gets hot and your feet will burn.
That's a really good tip, actually.
Yeah.
And wear your shoes on the aqueduct if you go on it. You can wear
I was
them.
going to say, can you? Because you definitely didn't used to be able to wear them because my son had to put his shoes away. So that would be a good change if that's allowed again.
You can put them inside of the tube going down if they're flip-flops. Because I got to tell you, at one point, I almost started crying. The woman behind me in line told me that she knew someone who got third-degree burns on her feet. And I believed her because I was at the point where I thought I wasn't going to be able to walk for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Why hasn't Disney figured out, even like at Walt Disney World on the pool decks, they have not figured out how to like do something to this concrete. Just make it wet all the time. Just
when
spray
you
it.
go to Blizzard Beach or Typhoon Lagoon, they have little sprinklers that spray onto the sidewalk.
See, this is what spray
Just saying,
it.
bringing it full circle back to Blizzard Beach here.
Maybe I'll have to go sometime. At least my feet won't burn.
But okay, that makes Nassau really easy.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and talk about the main show here, Castaway. So we get 2 days in Castaway here. How did we spend these days? And again, did we book any sort of excursions or any of the rentables? How did we fill these 2 days on the most beautiful island in the Bahamas?
Well, we'll call that your opinion. So Castaway was not what I was expecting for our family. It's really beautiful to look at from the ship. We are just, it sounds so silly saying this because we're going to a beach, but we're just not beach people, right? And
there's a lot of those.
I should have just gone with my gut on that and just not booked a double dip cruise, probably. But, we did give it our best effort and we, took some beautiful photos and met some characters, which was super fun. I had pre-ordered my meal on the ship, so that was waiting for me at Cookies. And I will say that day one, it was easier to get a chair with an umbrella, like for some shade, than it was on day two. And I think probably what happened was we went to Castaway earlier on day one because we thought, we'll make the most of it. We'll spend the whole day there. And it wasn't until like midday that I was done. I was really done, like after lunch. We put the kids in the kids club on the island, which was really kind of scary because they have no telephones or any way of contacting you on the island. So they advised us to just keep checking back on the kids, which was very different than on the ship. The kids area was like completely outside. I was a little nervous to leave them, but I wanted to go see Serenity Bay with my husband, which we did do. I think that my experience would have been a little bit different had it just been my husband and I, because being in the water is fun, but with kids, like I wasn't expecting it to be, it sounds so silly thinking about it, but I wasn't expecting it to be as salty as it was. And, don't rub your eyes after you put your hands in the water, very, very simple things. And the kids they were done too after a little while. Goggles can only go so far. We did not do any packages or excursions, but what ended up happening was when we were in the first family beach area, over the time that we were in the water, 3 different floats floated our way. And we just kind of held them and we're looking around trying to figure out who they belonged to, and nobody ever claimed them. So after about 5 minutes, I told the kids, just play. You can play with them. Nobody cares, obviously. We didn't even have to book that. We just got it for free.
Is there anything you think you could have done differently for your family to have made that beach day a little bit more enjoyable? Or
I'm not sure, because honestly, I was very disappointed with the food on the island. And I don't think that there's anything that I could have done. I'm told that the food at Serenity Bay is a little bit better, but that would just be for my husband and I, not.
Oh, and you don't eat hot dogs, which is like, to me, the best gluten-free thing, because that burger is sad. And yeah,
it just wasn't good. Although my meal the second day on Castaway was a little bit better because I opted for the salads instead of the hamburger, and that was better.
You can also get roasted chicken, I believe. So as something for listeners, it might not even be something but I've definitely had chicken on that island. And so you can just say, and your head waiter can add it to your list, or your waiter. And, it's a mystery sometimes, as we all know with special diets, whether we get the thing we asked for, but definitely you can try that, especially if you don't eat the hot dogs. I will say that that's my go-to with all the little salads, because the salads are really delicious.
The salads were great. I think that probably the only thing that would have made it better would be encouraging more playtime in the shade, like taking advantage of the game room that's shaded. I was just, I don't know what I was thinking, but in my head, I thought, okay, surely there's some place that's air conditioned on the island that I can escape for like a couple of minutes and just cool off, because July, it's hot. No, there wasn't.
The water. Your water is your cool off.
Yeah.
I was going to say, to be fair, I don't think we've ever done open to close on Castaway. We're always like, all right, morning on the island, we'll do our bikes or our runs, and then lunchtime, and then it's back on the ship.
I couldn't understand how people were running. We did the we did the 5K on the ship, not on the island. It just
That's smart.
Too hot. And just like open sun everywhere. So, but that was kind of cool to get that plastic metal or foam metal, whatever that is.
Silicone, maybe.
Yeah, silicone.
Little rubber, yeah.
Yeah, but that was cool to add to my collection. As far as, anything else, maybe leave sooner. As soon as we reached our peak, just know when it was time to go back to the ship and enjoy it. The second day, we left a lot later. We enjoyed the ship until about 11 o'clock or so before we got down to the island. And that was way more enjoyable. We were only there we only went down to the island for maybe 2.5, 3 hours. And we tried out the second family beach, which had absolutely no chairs anywhere. It's much smaller, that area. And I was just dying for some shade. So we ended up going back to the first beach area. We didn't really find any shady areas. So we just plopped our stuff down and it was time for lunch anyway. And the one thing I do regret on the island, which is weird because I'm sitting here saying I didn't love it, but there was some really cute merch that I didn't buy and I should have.
You got to get a friend to get it for you next time they're there.
Yeah, I wanted the 5K stuff since we did it, even though we didn't technically do it on the island. The merch was really cute.
Very
I
cool.
agree.
Well, I think we are getting close to the end here. Ilana, do you have any other like tips or tricks or things you wish you would have done differently or booked differently on this
Or
cruise?
known differently.
Yeah, I got myself into a fish extender. God help me. I would definitely never do that again. Never, ever.
It's a lot of work.
It's can be for sure overwhelming for the first cruise. And some people still love it and they do it in the first cruise. And some people just don't want to do it again. So know your family.
My kids loved it. They loved coming back to all these little surprises. It was me that was doing the work. Never again. I'll put out, something if people want to gift us, do a little pixie dust magic on us. That's fine. But no more organized fish extenders for me.
Well, and you didn't have your kids in on doing it. So you literally had to do it all yourself. Like
Correct.
when I do a fish extender, the couple of times I have, at least I could make my kid assist me with the whole process. Okay. So don't do a fish extender is one of your pieces of advice. We have an episode on fish extender. If you want to know more about it, you can research dclpodcast.com and then space fish extender, and you should be able to find our episode. What other tips do you think?
I was super prepared in the things I needed for the actual stateroom to make it comfortable. I bought all the magnetic hooks I could get my hands on, and I created this wall of our purses and our hats and anything we might need, our lanyards for our the cards to the room. And what is it called?
Key to the world.
Key to the world. I said card to the world. Okay, key to the world, or just key to the ship, whatever. So everything had a home, which was really helpful in organizing the room because it's not that large of a space. So just utilizing all of that space was really important. I also brought a sound machine, which I found super helpful. It ran on batteries. It was perfect for the kids to sort of just like every night we would close the curtain, put the sound machine on, and my husband and I still had some time to ourselves. I really liked that.
While you're thinking too, for the listeners, if you don't want to bring a sound machine, but you actually want to drown out either what you're doing from your kids or if they're used to sleeping with one, there are so many apps on your phone now that you can use. And so we, in my family, have been doing that for years, where we just use like a white noise or a white fan type app and we run it and we use that to drown out a little bit of hallway noise and just things like that to help us all sleep.
I really took the time when we first got on board to explore the app, which magically started working the minute we stepped foot onto the ship, hearted all the activities that we wanted to go to. And I encouraged my son to do the same thing, because what we ended up doing is we brought an old iPhone that is not, hooked up to any kind of number, but it worked with the ship's Wi-Fi. So he could go ahead and plan his own day, just going through the app and picking the activities he wanted to do as well. At 12 years old, it was really nice that he was able to have that kind of autonomy.
Christy,
nice.
Do you have one or two tips for first-time cruisers?
Don't feel like you have to bring everything with you. People are like, you have to have a fold-up hamper and this and that. I mean, a plastic bag to shove your laundry in works just fine. But the one, like, I really like magnetic hooks. And I share this, and I'll try to remember to do it when we do this post, and in my highlights, it's in my travel items, a light up light. So unless you're cruising on the Wish, the bathrooms don't have a nightlight. And so you have to turn the light to the bathroom on from outside, like in your stateroom, to go into the bathroom. And that means it's like a ton of light and you're pushing the wrong buttons or you're accidentally turning on the cabin light. And we get I bought a motion sensor light, and you put it in the bathroom. And as soon as you like start walking down the hallway, the light comes on, and it's just enough to allow the person going to the bathroom in the nighttime to see and to do the things, and doesn't wake up the whole cabin. And that is, maybe besides a magnetic hook, like the only other thing I would buy to take on a cruise. Lanyards, if you're a first-time cruiser and you want to wear them. Don't think that you have to overthink the situation, I guess, is my advice, is to go in to do it. But it was cute watching Ilana's stories. I actually would recommend going and watching them, because you can see all the things that she's seeing as a first-time cruiser. And it's like, it is like oh yeah, there's this, and things you don't really think about, maybe from my perspective as a repeat cruiser, or just as when somebody's planning to just sort of see what, the new cruiser thought process is. I think that would be helpful for people.
I will say one of the things that I did bring at least 2 bathing suits, because they dry necessarily in between use. What I didn't know ahead of time, and I wish I would have known, is that you can do laundry on board.
You also don't need new outfits for every single dinner and for every single everything, right? Like sometimes you want new outfits because it's fun, or in picking new things to wear, but you can reuse stuff. If I was going to go to Remy and to Paulo, I might wear the same dress to both of those meals because it's different restaurants. And then you could also wear that dress to dinner in the dining room because, again, different restaurant. So decide, I guess, what your outfits are and what you really want to have pictures, but you really can help cut down, especially when you're packing for a family and there's more people to bring things for.
So on a 3-night cruise, Christy has worn one outfit.
Yes.
That's what I'm understanding.
Because I've worn it. No, but I have packed the 3 of us for a 3-night cruise and 1 carry-on. So I wore some things more than one time. We all did.
I can't do that. It's not in my nature. I think I packed too many shoes, though. I think I had about 5 pairs of shoes.
Shoes are tricky. You just need so many. Okay, so bring all your shoes, but I'm wearing the same outfit 3 times. Anything else? Any one final thought? Well, here's the question.
I actually have one more question I would like to ask Ilana. Did you have any memorable experiences with any of the crew on board, whether it was your serving crew, your head waiter, or even bartenders or any other cast?
Your Captain America guy? I don't know what he was.
No, I had the morning that we went late to Castaway Key, there was, and I actually did share this in my stories if you saw it, Christy. So we were up on the 13th, I think it was on the 13th deck, playing the golf, the Goofy's golf. And a crew member came out of the bathroom right there. And she was just coming off her overnight shift. And we just started chatting. There was nobody around, right? And I just, said good morning. And she goes like, who, me? Right. And I was just thanking her for doing her job, because in my opinion, the janitorial staff, I don't know how they call themselves, but they have the most important job on the ship, because everybody says it's the captain. No, we could stay in port, not move an inch, and still have so much fun on the ship. But if you have dirty bathrooms everywhere, you're getting off that ship ASAP. That is the toughest job. And I just stood there and spoke to her, and she was so lovely and so thankful for, a 10-minute conversation when she's probably usually invisible to most people. I don't know. But she just was so thankful. And I took it as a message, these people have they have no days off, none whatsoever. They might have a shift off, but they don't have any days off. Take the time to thank the crew members, because they are working hard to make your trip as special as possible. And they are quite literally breaking their backs to do so.
Awesome. We always like to, take a minute and talk about the awesome crew. I'm sure many of us have many a crew members that we know by name now or remember by name. So always good to take a moment to shout them out. Christy, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. I think that was a really lovely way to end, frankly.
Alrighty. Well, that's about going to do it for our show. Of course, we have mentioned, Ilana, that you are a content creator and are posting pretty much constantly about what's going on in the parks. Where can our listeners follow you if they want to see more about your trip and about what else you're up to now?
I'm creating content currently at Disney Mom 2.0, if that's what you want to call it. I'm having a good time over there, so come join me. That's on Instagram. On TikTok, I'm Disney Mom Magic.
Alrighty, so you can go and follow Ilana over there on TikTok and Instagram. But that is going to do it for this show, Ilana. Thank you again so much for coming and sharing your experience on the Disney Fantasy. And I know we hinted a little bit about possibly a future cruise. So when you've got that booked and you've sailed, we hope to hear from you again soon.
Thank you both so much for having me on. This has been such a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on again. We just love talking cruising with anyone who's excited about it like we are. Well, that's going to wrap up our show. Once again, we want to thank Ilana for coming on and sharing her family's first time sailing on board the Disney Fantasy. Another reminder that Ilana's Instagram name has changed and she can now be found at Ilana Fofana, so make sure to check her out and follow all her adventures as well. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our Patreon supporters who make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show and join our community by visiting patreon.com/DCL podcast. Whether you are boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Nova, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels, and we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.